We have an R32 GTR with a Hicas problem, no codes, and a stuck directional valve, but it can be used. This diagnosing is for anything with a hydraulic Hicas system. We're not going to use any any self-diagnostics or computers to figure it out. So Doug's going to fire the car up, and when we fire it up, the wheel moves after it builds pressure. Doug will do it again. Hold on. It only moves a couple of degrees. So the directional valve is that guy. So three pins, ground in the middle. The Hicas computer will power either one side or the other side and move a spool valve back and forth. We have one torn apart over here. So this is a Hicas valve torn apart. So this is the body. So hydraulic fluid in, high pressure in, and this is the return, the bleed off to the cooler, and then this is your outs to your right and left to the back. Inside of this unit is the spool valve, piston plunger that they screw in here like that. Here on the other side, and this is the magnet that slides over that moves this piston up and down. And so this moves, that pushes and pulls. So we're thinking on that 32 that this piece is stuck. So we powered up here separately. We had to plug one system in, so there was no codes. And then we wired in a plug and we powered up both sides while it was running, and there was no change. So we did it to the car out here, and I'll show you. So we have another 32 here. We had to plug another solenoid in to the system, so then when you fire it up, there's no code. So when you first fire the car up, the ignition on signal, it gives power to this solenoid as a amperage check or a voltage check to make sure that this is plugged in. And then when you run it, when you fire it up and it runs for the first time, it also sends voltage in to make sure it's plugged in. So we had to make sure this is plugged in so that we have no code so we can do our testing. So then I have the plug here that goes to the solenoid, and I have the power and ground. So Doug's gonna fire, I'm gonna put one end on ground. Oop. There we go. And Doug is going to hold the phone and show you.
So he's going to power that solenoid up in one direction and then the other, and you'll be able to see the back wheels move. There's to the right, that's one solenoid. You'll switch the wires, and then it'll go to the left. If you have a functioning solenoid valve assembly, there you can see it going to the left.
So we did the same to this car. We do that, and there's nothing going on. There's no bypass happening. So it's bypassing through the return tube, or not. It could be stuck. So we have a power steering leak on this car as well, coming out of the back of the power steering pump, where the Hicas pump would be. The Hicas pump is, where the power steering leak. I wonder if
It's just pressure all the time.
it's just pressure all the time,
And getting the pump on.
and not quite bypassing all the fluid. We will take all this apart and check back. So we got the solenoid out, so we're going to grab the mounting flanges in the vise here.
By the way, this is 25 minutes later.
Don't tell them that.
I told him that.
We can't charge for that now. Can't tell them it took us 4 hours.
Well, we're charging 4 hours, but it takes us 25 minutes.
Right,
So
so
get
then-
that good and tight in the vise.
And then we have the HKS wrenches happen to work out. It's 1.25 inches or 12 AN, and that's so you loosen these up, but be careful because you can't. The valve here has to be centered. So
These two are positioned perfectly so that the valve is centered with these in the relaxed position. If you change this position, you change the way this lock nut locates it, you're going to change the position of the valve and can bleed fluid one way or the other.
You can do a feeler gauges here between that gap and this gap feeler gauges, you know.
Or just don't change the lock nut position. So break these loose. I know we broke these loose a little bit ago, but it was actually pretty easy. So when you loosen it, don't move it any farther than loose. And same on this one. Loose.
So
like
then
that.
you're going to want to take these nuts off here. Nope. Because these nuts have to come off on both sides so that you can slide the solenoid off. I take the end nut off. So we lock, there's a here, lock that, and then so we'll go to the other side. Yep.
This one will spin if you don't hold it.
Yep. 27. Yep. Yep. So now we might have to take and pry these tabs off here. That film.
Fatty Fat Cat will get that for me.
So I'm gonna take these. We gotta make note of where, because otherwise you can't get them off. You got to nope. You gotta come up to it. You got to unclip these here. Yep, on both sides. And then one at a time. So this one slides off. And there's washers here. So now, washer. We'll keep the location the same. Now, they should just spin from here. Well, that should be loose. Yep. So, and then that will just unspin, but it'll be sprung.
So put pressure in on it as you're unscrewing it, so it doesn't fall, and all the little bits and pieces fall out of order, and then you call us and try and figure out how it goes back together.
So. Yep. There's a seat in there.
Yep. I'm gonna get a magnet here in just a second.
It's aluminum, I think.
I've got an aluminum magnet. It's off the Star Trek website.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
There's the other.
I'll grab some needle nose.
And there's the plungers in there. So that does that.
Get it?
Oh, careful. Those came out too. There's another little piece there. Yep. That's the little washer. Oh. Only goes one way. Yeah.
Now, in taking this apart, I'm sure that we dislodged whatever piece of dirt was keeping this from moving.
Hold on, was there a thing on the end of that one? Because there was on the end of this one. That side here had that little piece.
A little pin.
Yeah, a little pin was on that one. Right there.
It's in here.
Oh, it's in there, okay.
It's in the end of that right there.
Oh.
Don't lose these pieces, and don't screw this back together with that little thing in there.
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do. So we'll wash all this up, get it all clean, make sure that the valve is not sticking anymore. We'll check function electrically when we put it back together to make sure the valve is moving both directions. We'll use air on the input, on the pressure in, and when we power it one way or the other, we'll get air out going right or going left. And then in the neutral position, air coming out of the bypass back to the pump.
So we rebuilt the solenoid. Well, rebuilt it. We took it all apart, cleaned it, and we noticed that the valve that goes back and forth, that selects left and right, only would come out one direction. Thought it was odd, so we cleaned it all up and we put it back in, and it moves freely back and forth now, both directions. And then we bench tested it with the power supply and with air, and the air does go in the channels it needs to go in. So Doug's gonna fire it up for the first time, and let's see if it moves. We're golden. no movement, and there's no lights on the Hicas. So I think we're good to go. So a little bit of dirt chunk or life inside the solenoid, and took it all apart, cleaned it up, and put it back together.
What we'll do now is we'll actually hook the computer up and put it into the test mode and make sure that we function.
Yep.
You can see the wheel turns to the left when he turns the wheel to the right. Now we'll do a 60-mile-an-hour run. And the back wheel will turn with it.